You posted a photo last Saturday. A restaurant. A good one. The kind with small portions and large prices and lighting specifically designed to make everything look better than it is. You and two friends. Glasses raised. The caption, something effortless. Something that suggested this was just how you lived. It got 43 likes. You checked 3 times. Here is what the 43 people who liked it did not know. You moved the dinner to Saturday because payday was Friday. You ordered the second cheapest thing on the menu and described it as your favorite when someone asked. You put the evening on a credit card that still has last month's balance on it. You drove home slightly anxious about a number you did not check because checking it would have made the anxiety worse. On Sunday morning, you woke up and the performance was over. The account was what it always was. The photo stayed up. This is not a story about one dinner. This is a story about 20 years of dinners, 20 years of photos, 20 years of performing a version of financial success so consistently that you began to lose track of where the performance ended and the reality began. And the reality is this: you have been performing wealth your entire life and building almost none of it. The audience. You never chose. You did not decide to perform. Nobody decides to perform. The performance begins before you are old enough to understand what money is. You're 7 years old. Your family gets a new car. The neighbors see it. Something passes across your parents' faces. Satisfaction, pride, the specific relief of a social judgment avoided. You file this away without knowing you are filing it. You are 14. A classmate wears a brand of trainers that costs 3 times what yours cost. You notice. You notice that others notice. You learn without being taught that objects communicate something about you before you open your mouth. You're 19. Your first real paycheck. Your first real decision. You buy something you did not need with money you had just started earning. Not because you wanted the thing, because having the thing said something you wanted said. The audience was never chosen. It assembled itself from the people around you, classmates, colleagues, neighbors, family members, and you began performing for it before you were old enough to audit whether the performance was worth the cost. The American Psychological Association published research in 2023 showing that approximately 40% of Americans regularly spend money they do not have to maintain a social image they cannot afford, not occasionally, regularly. Almost half of the country in a continuous performance of financial health for an audience that is simultaneously performing the same thing back at them. 2 people performing wealth to each other, neither one building it. The audience is the trap. Not because the audience is cruel, because the audience is not watching. The 43 likes came from 43 people who scrolled past in under 2 seconds while performing their own version of Saturday night. The wardrobe of success. You're 26. You got the job. The real one. The one with a salary that sounds like a number you used to dream about. You celebrate by buying clothes. Not because you needed clothes, because the job required a version of you that your current wardrobe could not produce. Because walking into that office in what you wore before felt like showing up to a performance in the wrong costume. The suit cost $600. The shoes, $280. The watch, because people notice watches in certain rooms, $450. You spent $1,330 on the costume for the role before you received your first paycheck from it. The Bureau of Labor Statistics data shows that the average American spends approximately $1,900 per year on clothing and apparel. That is $19,000 per decade. $57,000 over 30 years of working life. $57,000 spent on fabric and leather and the specific version of yourself that you decided the world needed to see. $57,000 invested in an S&P 500 index fund in 1994 would be worth approximately $1.1 million today. The wardrobe of success cost you $1 million. Not because clothes are wrong, because the performance drove the purchase rather than the need. The subtle distinction is everything. The billionaire who wears the same gray t-shirt every day is not making a fashion statement. He is refusing to allocate cognitive and financial resources to a performance that does not serve him. Mark Zuckerberg has said publicly that wearing the same clothes every day removes a daily decision that costs energy without producing value. The gray t-shirt is not poverty. The gray t-shirt is the rejection of a performance. The apartment that performed you are 28. You move into a new apartment, a better one, in a better neighborhood, with better light and better finishes, and a building lobby that makes a certain impression on the people you bring home. The rent is $400 more per month than your previous apartment. You justify it as an investment in your quality of life, in your mental health, in the kind of environment that makes you more productive. These things are partially true. The apartment is nicer. You feel better in it. But if you are honest, and this is the part the performance makes difficult, a significant part of the decision was about what the address says, about the specific feeling of telling people where you live, about the look on certain faces when you mention the neighborhood. $400 per month is $4,800 per year. Over the 10 years you stay in premium apartments before buying a house, it is $48,000. $48,000 that went to a landlord who invested it, while you paid him to live in the performance. The Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances shows that the median net worth of American renters is approximately $10,400 compared to $396,500 for homeowners. The gap is not entirely explained by homeownership itself. It is partly explained by the financial behaviors that correlate with the two groups. Renters who spend the premium on performance-driven housing choices, better neighborhoods, nicer buildings, impressive lobbies, consistently show lower savings rates than renters who optimize for value. The apartment performed beautifully. The account did not. The car that nobody cared about you are 31. The car lease made sense at the time. $389 per month. New car every 3 years. Always something presentable. Always something that did not require explanation in the parking lot at work, or the valet line at the restaurant you could not quite afford. $389 per month is $4,668 per year. Over 15 years of leasing, it is $70,020 paid to never own anything. Your neighbor drives a 2017 Honda Civic he bought for $14,000 cash. He has driven it for 7 years. He plans to drive it for 7 more. His total transportation cost over those 14 years, $14,000 plus maintenance. Approximately $19,600 all in. The gap between his transportation cost and yours over the same period, $50,420. Your car was nicer. His account is larger. A 2019 study from the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that people consistently overestimate how much others notice and evaluate their cars. The average person pays meaningful attention to another person's vehicle for approximately 3.2 seconds in a social encounter. After that, the car is irrelevant to the social judgment. You paid $70,000 for 3.2 seconds of impression. The math of the performance laid bare. The car said something. Nobody was listening long enough to hear it. The vacation that lives on Instagram. You are 34. The trip to Bali cost $4,200, not because Bali required $4,200, because the version of Bali that could be photographed, the infinity pool villa, the private beach, the restaurant with the swing over the rice field, required $4,200. You spent $800 more than the comfortable version of the trip would have cost to access the photographable version. The version that produced 17 content pieces across 2 platforms. The version that received more engagement than anything you had posted in 6 months. The $800 premium bought approximately 1,400 likes across the trip's content. Each like cost approximately 57 cents. The spending on the photographable premium, the upgrade, the better restaurant, the private experience over the shared one, is measurable in aggregate. A 2022 study from the University of Michigan found that social media users spend on average 22% more on travel than non-users of social media for equivalent trips. The premium goes almost entirely toward experiential upgrades that are photogenic rather than functional. 22% more. Every trip. Over a lifetime of travel. You were not buying the trip. You were buying the content. The content lived for 48 hours in an algorithm and then disappeared. The credit card statement lived for 6 months. The net worth you did not build you are 38. You sit down one Sunday with a calculator and a coffee, and you do something you have been avoiding for years. You add it up. Not the income. The income has been good. Better than good. Over 15 years of working, you have earned approximately $1.1 million before tax. You add up the net worth. What you actually own minus what you actually owe. The number is $47,000. You earned $1.1 million and kept $47,000. You stare at the number. You do the math again. Same answer. Where did the rest go? You know where the rest went. It went to the performance, the suits and the shoes and the watch, the premium apartments and the leased cars, the Bali upgrades and the restaurant credit cards and the 43 like dinners, the gym membership you kept because canceling it would have felt like admitting something, the gifts that communicated generosity rather than expressing it, the rounds of drinks bought for people whose names you cannot remember. The performance consumed the income, and the income never became wealth. The Federal Reserve data is not kind on this point. The median net worth of Americans aged 35 to 44 is approximately $135,600. But the median net worth of Americans in the same age group who prioritize savings rate over lifestyle, who consciously redirect income from consumption to investment, is approximately $380,000. The gap is not income. Studies consistently show income above approximately $75,000 has a diminishing relationship with financial well-being. The gap is allocation. Where the income goes determines the outcome, and the performance determined where the income went. The moment the performance stops making sense. You're 41. Something happens. It always does. Maybe a friend mentions their net worth casually in a conversation, and the number is 3 times yours on half the income. Maybe you read an article about the average retirement savings for your age group and realize you're below the median despite being above the median income. Maybe you have a child, and suddenly the performance feels like a debt being passed to someone who did not agree to carry it. The moment of clarity arrives differently for everyone, but the structure is always the same. You see the performance from the outside for the first time, and it looks different from the outside. From the outside, the performance is not impressive. From the outside, the performance is a person spending money they are earning to produce an image of having money they do not have for an audience that is performing the same thing back at them. From the outside, the performance is a loop, a very expensive loop with no exit unless you choose one. The exit is not dramatic. It does not require a lifestyle collapse or a public announcement or a viral post about waking up. The exit is a single quiet decision made in a Sunday kitchen with a calculator and a coffee. The decision is to allocate differently, not to spend less on everything, to stop spending on the performance specifically. The money that was going to the costume goes to the index fund. The premium apartment becomes the adequate apartment, and the $400 difference goes to the investment account. The leased car becomes the owned car, and the $389 per month goes to the mortgage overpayment. The Bali upgrade becomes the Bali trip, and the $800 difference goes to the emergency fund. Nothing dramatic, nothing viral, nothing to post. Just the redirection of money from the performance to the portfolio. Month by month. Quietly. Without an audience. You posted a photo last Saturday. The same restaurant. The same friends. The glasses raised again. But something is different this time. You ordered what you actually wanted. You split the bill evenly without calculating your share to the penny. You put it on a card that has no balance on it. You drove home without anxiety about a number you already know. The photo got 31 likes, 12 fewer than last time. You checked once, and then you opened your investment account and added the $800 you did not spend on the upgrade that would have made the photo better. The account is not impressive yet. It does not make for a good photo. It does not communicate anything at a dinner party. It does not require the right neighborhood, or the right car, or the right watch to be understood. It just grows. Quietly. Without an audience. The way real wealth has always grown. You are not performing anymore. You are building. And the difference between those two things is not the income. It is where the income goes next.